All right, everybody. I am so super stoked to have Miss Ashley DeLuca here with us today. We are going to be diving into all things email marketing and how it pertains to you as network marketers. And yes, it does pertain to you as network marketers, as we saw yesterday with all the crazy. And this is something that for those of you that are catching the replay, like weeks and weeks later, yesterday was the day that Facebook and Instagram decided to pitch a fit and nobody could get on for 6 hours. So email became the way that we were communicating. And who's to say it's not going to happen again? So that is why Ashley is here. We've actually been planning this for weeks. This is not because of the whole thing yesterday, but that definitely helps show us again why this is so, so important. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashley. I'm going to have her introduce herself. But before she fully dives in, I just wanted to tell you like credibility factor with her. I had a good email open rate before I applied her strategies. I have an incredible email open rate now. My email open rate before I even like listened to anything she did was in the 25-30 range, which is good. The email I sent out yesterday, last time I checked, was at a 65% open rate. I have one email sequence that has several emails over 90% in open rate. So she knows what she's talking about. Okay, and not just open rate, but click rate, which means people are actually saying like, oh yeah, I need more information about what this is happening. And then conversion rate. So they're actually going to where you're wanting them to go and clicking that buy button because they know you. So if you're able to have your camera on, please do. I hope you're ready to take some notes. I'll have her introduce herself and we're going to go ahead and dive on into all things email. There's no audio, Ashley.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
I was like fiddling with my settings because my Beats is only coming out on one side. Who knows? Anywho, so yeah, I'm just honestly so incredibly excited to be here. I absolutely freaking love email marketing, and so I'm just super excited to share this passion with each and every one of you guys. And so a little bit about me. First of all, I'm not in my normal location, so if you see family members popping in and out, I got my 3-year-old here. Like we just live life and we do the things. And so for me today, my goal specifically is to make sure that if you have any questions around email, we address them, we get you rolling. But also today we're going to be talking about starting your email list strong. What is the actual, like, what platform should you use, the list, the tags, the segments? Like, I want to debunk all of that for you. So that way you have a very clear understanding of what that looks like specifically for you. And then we're going to be moving into the 5 email types. So I'll share my screen. I got some emails to share with you guys that we're going to adapt specifically for each of you. And then from there, we're going to talk about the 3 most important sequences to consider as you're going through the process of implementing them into your business and all of the things. So for me, I'm a speaker. I am in the process of writing a book right now called Own Your Table, all around conversational email marketing. I started this process back when I was 14 years old with library books and a laptop that I bought with babysitting money, specifically because I wanted to share my voice and share my words and my thoughts with the rest of the world. And so now I do that specifically through empowering people to be able to rebuild relationships with their subscribers, while also too, again, going through this process of just making email marketing super incredibly simplified. So if you could take a quick moment, if you're able to type in for me, can you guys let me know what level you're at? Do you currently have an email list? Is this something that you're actively doing? Are you brand new? I just want to make sure I cater the content to each of you guys who are here live with me today. So that way I can buzz over the parts that everybody knows, and then we can move forward from there. Okay, have an email list and wanting to grow it. Small email list, perfect. Awesome sauce, okay. No email yet, so this is new. Don't have email, but love to grow it. Perfect. Access to a list, but no idea what to do from there. Decent, and know it can be better. Perfect. Okay, we got all the spectrum. So everything, we're going to cover all of that today, just to be able to help in each of those key areas. So as we go along, any questions, you can pop them in the chat, or I'm going to leave time at the end for you to be able to ask, because I want to make sure that you have everything that you need to be able to propel into this world and go email your list. Okay. All right. So the very first thing is platform. And a lot of times what ends up happening is, a lot of email marketing strategists come in and they're like, okay, listen, like the only email marketing platform you should use is this, and this is the only one I recommend. And for me personally, I really highly recommend you focusing on using a platform that works best with your brain, making sure that like when you get into your email marketing platform, it makes sense for you and what you're doing and you understand it. Because if you're in an email marketing account that I understand and I'm like, oh, this makes sense for my brain, and you don't understand it, it doesn't work. It just doesn't help. It doesn't make any sense. And you're just gonna be like, I don't ever want to email my list because it's too confusing. So what I always look at first and foremost is your integrations, like what platform integrates best with what your company provides. Specifically for the client that I work with, we mainly focus on using Zapier. I know some people call it Zapier and Zapier, all it's the same thing. And we automate a lot of those things into her account, and she uses ActiveCampaign. Usually ActiveCampaign is going to be the best when it comes to implementing, mainly because it allows for you to be able to have a lot more of those integrations as opposed to some of the other platforms. But you can also focus as well too, if you're like, no, like I just want to keep it simple, you can always start off free using MailerLite. MailerLite is a great option if you're just getting started and you don't want to have a huge bill associated with your email marketing account. Again, you can get your feet wet, you can figure it out if it's good for you, and then from there you can move into, okay, cool, awesome, now I want to take it to the next level. I know, Abby, I'm like 95% sure. I have not finished my coffee. I believe you use ConvertKit, is that correct? Use ConvertKit, or which one do you use?
I use Kajabi.
Use Kajabi. Okay. So I always get them too confused when like with the backends. So you can definitely use Kajabi. You can use ConvertKit. I personally use ConvertKit and I absolutely love their mission and what they do. But again, I want you to pick a platform that makes sense. It works well with your business. I'm not here to add another subscription to your business if you already have Kajabi, for an example, and you have things rolling. So that's the very first thing when it comes to platform. Okay, so Kate said, I use the one available integrated with my personal website. Mine is a send through Wix. Okay, cool. Awesome. I love that. Yes. The only thing I'll also let you guys know is that if you're finding that you have really low open rates or click rates and you're just not able, like after using my strategies, you're not able to get them to go higher, they're just not breaking through, you may want to go through the process of maybe testing and switching to another one, just to be able to see if like, oh, is it just me? Is it my list? Or it could also just be the platform in itself. And we can talk about deliverability at the end too, if that's something you guys are struggling with. Are there any unavailable in Canada? I've never heard of any of these. I don't believe so. I don't believe that. I believe they're all available in Canada from my understanding. I'm not familiar with any of them not being. That's why I switched to Kajabi. My other platform is so much lower. Yeah, totally, 100%. Yeah, and sometimes as well too, there's certain platforms that are very.
Whoops. So I'm sure she'll jump right back in as soon as she can. Her son was playing next to the thing, so I wonder if he killed the router. Most of us are toddler moms, can you tell? But yeah, so while she's doing that, one of the things that I noticed yesterday, so I sent like the same email on both my platforms. One of them was like half an hour after everything shut off. One of them was an hour after everything shut off. The one half an hour was on my main email platform that I have been using. It was that Thrive one. And I have, like this morning, I was sitting at a 30% open rate. And then Kajabi, I was at like 65. And I hit 50% like 20 minutes after I sent my email. So it was like very, very fast. So Kajabi starts at $149 a month US. It's not inexpensive, but that's my full website. That's my email. That's where my courses are. That's where I sell stuff. I put events on there. My blog is hosted on there, all of those things. Kate, I know, uses Wix, and she's actually going to be, we're going to be chatting through that in a little bit.
I actually really love Wix. I've used Wix sorry guys, I'm driving in very bad Washington rain for the first time this season. It's so nice. I really love Wix. And if you're looking to build your personal website away from your company, I really suggest it. It's super easy to use. I'd be happy to help. And I also love that there's email through it. I can set up a shop. I have my blog. And it's nice because with that as well, I can avoid using Linktree and things like that. I can build a page specifically for all my different links and just have that to link people to.
Yeah.
So
There,
that's definitely.
yeah. And there's Kate's website. So if you want to take a look at like what a Wix website can look like, I just linked her website there. Most of you saw it when you went in to buy your graphics for the month. So go check that out. If you look at her collective page, I'm on there. So because I'm one of the admins in her group, but if you go check that out, that can show you one of the ways. Also, that social media summit we're having later this month. I have one of my other business friends coming in, and she's going to be chatting through how to set up your own website a little bit, whether to host a blog or anything there. So especially after yesterday, I want to give you guys as many tools as possible to still connect and collaborate with her son shut off her computer. She's working on coming back on. I kind of figured it was a son issue.
That's one thing I like about Wix is they actually have group spaces. So I was able to try and actually really vamp up this group that I created through Wix Spaces. It's basically like a Facebook group, but it's through my website. So that is kind of a nice little like, hey, this is a different thing. I did have a course that I did sell on my website and hosted through there at a time too. You can only hold so much like video and all that for how much you pay monthly. And they have things from like just a regular website up to actually having a store through them. So you can pay different amounts. You can also get email through them. There's so many different built-in and plugins and things like that. It's really nice.
Yeah, Kajabi is $149 a month for the basic. I just upgraded to the $199 a month because then I can now have affiliates and I can set up more pipelines and more programs. So that way I don't have to keep pulling and putting it back on. So I just changed my package. That was my minor freak out moment on, when did I do that? Sunday night. I don't know if I told you guys. No, I didn't, because we weren't online yesterday. I upgraded my package so that way I could do that and set up affiliates and set up like all of those things, and everything was gone. My podcast, my blog, my programs, my courses, everything gone, wiped. I just sat there for a minute staring at the screen where it said like, you have no courses, you have no members, you have no offers. And I'm like, did I just lose hundreds of hours worth of content and stuff? And it was just gone. And so I backed out and I came back in and everything was there. So I just slowly closed the computer and went to bed. I'm like, I'm done. that was enough of a mini heart attack. So I'm like, if I just lost all of that, that would have been so much. But I think it was just like a slight glitch when I did the upgrade. And then everything was back. So, but it scared me half to death. But yeah, so Kajabi is a really good platform. It's, again, I've gotten really great open rates for the email through that. I can set up automations. So again, like with the, hey, download this freebie. And then it automatically kicks in that automation that I have set up where they get a series of 8 emails. And I get to decide what day it gets sent out. I get to decide what time it gets sent out. So that way it's, because most emails, if you notice, they get sent out in batches, like at the same time, you'll get like that notification at like 6 a.m. and you get like a whole slew of emails. So I tend to send my emails out around 9:30 in the morning because that's not one of the big group times when everybody else is sending out emails. So that's one of the things that I do. So I really love Kajabi. It's, like I said, it's not a free platform, but you can do a lot with it, which is nice.
Oh my gosh. I am so incredibly sorry. We have
life.
Lots going on. Yes.
This is life. This is life. It's okay. Kate was there last week. I think I might've told you, I was speaking at JavaCon, the Java Mama conference, and my dog jumped up on the table behind my camera. And that didn't work to get my attention while I was speaking. So she went and grabbed one of my high heels and started eating that. And that didn't work. So she went and grabbed one of my bras. So
That was one
everybody,
of my favorite coaching experiences ever. I'm just gonna say, just flat out.
yeah. So that was great. Like first paid speaking engagement. My dog's eating my bra on camera. It was fabulous. So it was great. It was great. So
That's
your
one
son
for the
shutting
memory
off
books.
your son shutting off your computer. We're good. We're good. All right.
It's all good. It's all good. Okay, cool.
Let's jump back in.
All right, so platforms, I think we're good there. But if you have, I always open the door. If you have a specific question when it comes to a platform, if you're like, hey, these are my pieces, what works best, what makes most sense, like, please let me know. Like I have worked in almost every single one of them, I think, at this point. So I'm more than happy to walk you through what would make sense for your business in that respect. So when it comes to, okay, so like once you figure out your platform, then it gets into like the organizational side. One of the worst mistakes that you can do is literally just upload your contacts in there and not know who is who, where's what, and not have any kind of system that will give you information about them. Now, when you work in Kajabi, Kajabi is awesome because Kajabi will go through the process of really helping segment automatically based off of who's engaged, who's not engaged, you know, which products have they gone into, what forums, opt-ins, all of that really fun stuff. And a lot of the other platforms too have certain segmentation that comes along with them. And so Abby had mentioned, okay, yeah, tags. And that is one of the biggest things. So segments are usually taken care of by the platforms. Tags and anything underneath of that is not. So when it comes to tagging, a lot of times within your platform, you're going to want to essentially take the top level information. So like this person went through the process of grabbing this free download. This person went through the process of being able to, submit this form, whatever that may be. What other information that can you grab from them that will be able to be helpful for you to understand your audience better? So for an example, I always think in the world of makeup, just because like that's what my client is in, she's in the makeup industry. And so I think about, okay, do you want a simple routine or you like more like medium or advanced? Like that is super helpful in terms of with when you're giving product recommendations, because that gives you a better idea of like, okay, Linda over here who wants a simple minimalistic routine probably isn't going to want 6 different lip shades. She probably just wants 1 or 2 to swap, like day and night, and that's about it. And so when you can think about little things like that, that can help you better understand your audience of like, what can I, then be able to recommend? What questions are you asking? Maybe even on social or in DMs. Think about how you can infuse them into your emails to then tag your audience when they click on things. And so one of the biggest mistakes you can make is tagging everything when it comes to they clicked over to this product and then this social media link and then this Facebook group and then this and that. Like, I just really like to think about what is kind of those huge key cornerstone moments that will allow you to be able to move somebody into something. That's it. Feel free to experiment, feel free to add them in. But again, for you, just the question I would ask is what is really going to help me understand how I can serve them better? That's it. So that's when it comes to tags. The other thing that I do like to do a lot of times is separate the audience between from buyers and non-buyers. And the reason why I like to segment them differently, if the platform automatically doesn't do that, is because I want to consider the mindset that they're in and what information that they need to have. Because someone who's already purchased from you already has the product, right? They've already experienced what it's like to buy from you. Like you've already built that trust, you've already built that foundation with them. And so when it comes down to it, what ends up happening is you're then able to then speak to them a little bit more differently as opposed to someone who has not purchased from you yet, right? Like when you think about that sales and buyer psychology, you want to make sure that you're, segmenting them so you can target them specifically. And so without going 80 levels deep in terms of with what product and how and why and what package and all the things, you can literally just keep it as like non-buyer and buyer, and we'll be happy campers. That's personally what I do. I mean, I'm in a service-based business, but that is the easiest way for you to be able to segment your list without getting super overwhelmed with all of the things. So that is segment, tags, lists, all that really fun stuff. The abbreviations, the way that they're called, all of that is going to be different for each platform. So again, if you have any specific questions or anything like that, please let me know. Like, again, more than happy to be like, set it up this way within this platform because then it'll make more sense. So always happy to do that. So when it comes to foundation, that's kind of like the overall like platform organization. Now we move into, okay, we want to start thinking about, all right, whether you have emails or not, how are we going to grow this thing? Because, it does us no good if we just have an email list that just kind of stays stagnant. We have the same 20 people or the same 70 people on there. How do you really go through the process of growing your email list so that way you can attract new people into your world? And I have basically two sides to the coin. You can either go through the process of having a low cost offer where it's basically like a lower, smaller priced item where you're then able to go through the process of, getting something in exchange to get them into your funnel, or you can have it more so of a freebie driven where you're able to provide some kind of free value that they opt into. Now, I have done it both ways for a lot of my clients. We've done this for my MLM client as well as some of my other ones as well too, really experimenting with, does it make a difference if somebody goes through the process of having a smaller cost offer, or if they have something that is more so of like more free? And for me, I found that it works both ways, because the thing is that somebody who's coming in, you can't necessarily just be like, oh, they're a freebie chaser, that's all they are. Like, I've had clients who have opted into a freebie, who have been on my email list, for a year, and then went through the process of purchasing from me. Sometimes it's like shorter, longer, all of that. But really, honestly, I know Abby had mentioned this before that you guys are going to go more in depth into this. But my perspective is I like to take the offer, their kind of primary thing, the transformation that you're selling, and think, okay, cool. Like, if this is where they're going to end up, what can I give them to increase the awareness, to be able to give them a resource, to give them a tool for them to be able to become aware of what it is that they're looking for in terms of how you can help them. So for me, what this looks like is I have a small $27 offer. It's my top 5 emails. And I'm actually going to show you a piece of that today. But basically what that is that gives you an opportunity to be able to see how I write emails. What is my thought process behind emails? And it really helps for people to be able to see, oh, okay, cool. This is like what it's all about, while also providing them value, because they can take those 5 emails and then run with them. When it comes to, and again, I always go back to makeup, but like when it comes to the makeup side of things for her, she grows her list through color matches. And she also grows her list as well too, by going through the process of providing a guide each season based off of a signature look and basically breaking it down with a video tutorial. So not only does they have direct access to be able to see what colors she used and everything, but then also too, it allows for them to be able to get in like a specific video that walks them through, like once they purchase, and see the whole look as it's being applied. So she's also educating them on the products, what that looks like, and all of that really fun stuff. And so linking that together really, really helps. So again, I'll let you guys dive more into that, but that's kind of like my take on lead magnets and how I approach them and things like that. Because I used to do like 50 empowering girl boss quotes as my lead magnet as a website designer way long ago. Did not work, got the worst leads ever, did not convert. So just making sure it always links back is so incredibly important. So that is my spiel about freebies. The other thing that I'll also say when it comes to growing your list, I would definitely, and this is just from my experience, Facebook groups was the fastest way for me to grow my email list. Like hosting my own Facebook group and then having people come into it and providing their email. Hands down, the fastest way for people to be able to, or for me to grow my list and for my clients as well, because as they're coming through, like they have no idea what's on the other side. Like there's just infinite possibilities and trainings and resources in contact with me. And so that was also another amazing way for me to grow my list, like consistently month after month on autopilot. Okay, so what I'm going to do next, do you guys have any questions about that while I pull up? Because we're going to dive into the 5 different email types, and I'm going to show you how you can use this to create a monthly email plan. So I'm just going to pull that up. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. We're going to share the screen. Just double check real quick. Awesome. Perfect. Yes.
Just a heads up while Ashley's pulling that up, month 4 girls, we're diving into lead magnets this month. So, and you're going to be creating at least 1, if not more. And we're going to be doing that together in month 4. So just a heads up, if you're like, what does this look like for me? We're going to be diving into that very, very soon.
Yeah, totally. And one thing that I'll say as well is that like, as you go through the process, like I always, especially if you're like just getting into this, definitely create at least 2 or 3 to play with. So that way you have something to rotate through. But then what can end up happening is you'll end up finding at least one of them that skyrockets. That's like super awesome. That's super amazing. And then what you can do is then you can take that and then eventually like run ads to it or really promote that or have that be like your signature thing after you have the stats to go with it to show that it converts into clients. So awesome. Perfect. Okay, so these are my top 5 emails. And the reason why I created these specifically is because I wanted a way to be able to take all of the different things that I do and put it into a super concise way. So that way you weren't just being like, here's my entire blah, blah, blah brain. Like this is actually like a process that you can use month after month after month. And so when it comes to frequency, this is a question that I get a lot is like, how do you know how much you should email your list? What does that look like? What do I send them? This takes out all the guessing because essentially each week you will be able to rotate through one of these email types. And what ends up happening is it allows for you to be able to provide value, educate them, give them some love, while also too having a primary moment where you focus on selling. And specifically for you guys, with what you're doing, I think and believe that you have the opportunity technically to sell within each of these emails. But I'm going to show you how you can do that without being super sleazy, because that's like one of the biggest things. You're like, we don't want to just like shove all of the sales in their face. But what we can do is we can provide them with, little nuggets and product links and things like that to move them into that direction without, again, being super sleazy in their face. Okay, so the very first email type, and I'm not going to read these. I'll actually link the document over to you guys so that way you can actually read them. But basically, email number 1 is an educational with mini mention. And basically what this is this email is primarily educating on a specific topic, on a specific pain point that they have. And at the same time too, it's mini mentioning a product as well. And so as we were talking through, so I talk about like, oh my gosh, like let's, take out the distraction of your phone. Like you want to be more productive. Well, cool. Like, that's why this product, which this is a planner for like some context, but like this planner was created. And you can link anytime you mention something, you should link over to it. So anytime you're telling a story about, a product, whether it's because you got started into it or you're super excited about something, whether you're mentioning your podcast, your Facebook group, anything, anytime you mention something, you need to link to it. It won't take away, and this is something that I've experimented with, is it won't take away from the main primary call to action. It will actually just enhance that experience for them. So that way they're not wondering, they're like, oh, so this concealer that you're talking about, like, well, where do I find that? And so like, I don't want you to have to go Google the name, find my link, all of that, and then figure out where the product is. Like, I'm just going to give you the exact link and you can just pop on over and check out the concealer kind of thing. So that is the best way to be able to, link in products without, again, being over the top. With this specific email, there wasn't any other necessarily call to action besides hitting reply. And so what you can do, and, Abby had mentioned this, like, you don't have to always have a next step, but you should always call them to do something, whether it is to reply, to follow you on social, to go through the process of, checking out a product or checking out a training. Like, always have a next step in mind. And this often comes from outlining, which I could always, if we have time, I'll actually outline, like show you guys how I outline before I get to actually writing them. So that way, if you ever wanted to have somebody else write your emails, you'll have a consistent outline for them to use. So that way you don't have to worry about like, oh, well, I didn't tell you about the CTA. So now this entire email is all messed up because it doesn't even go to the CTA I wanted. So I'll show you how to outline these too. But that's the main premise, educational around a mini mention. When it comes to education, one other thing that I'll add is you don't want to just necessarily go to like the kind of like they already know that stage. Like, I always want to double check and make sure that I'm not sharing something that's like a no duh kind of thing. Because it's really easy, and I do this all the time, and I have to check myself and making sure that like the content that I'm sharing is definitely not necessarily like up level or higher up, but like really just making sure that I'm diving deep into something that is just like, oh, I didn't know that. And so being able to, again, focus on whatever that gap is between what it is that they need to know in order to take that next step with you. So that's education with mini mention. The next one is the FYI email. Now, this FYI email, you can actually use however you would like in terms of what whether it's like, oh my gosh, cool beans, like I actually have this trading, on the first week of the month, and you have this as email number 2 for week 2. Like you can, with any of these, you can swap this around. There's no like science to like do the educational, then the FYI, then the connector. Like it's very much so made so that way you can adjust this as needed. But basically the FYI email, and I personally like this format. This is the way that works best for me, but you're more than welcome to adjust this as you would want. Entire purpose is basically just invite them to the next step, invite them over into the next piece of whatever it is that you're doing. So for this, an example, like we could have totally sent this out for the masterclass. Like, so here's the details, what, live Q&A, when, here's the time, where, click to join. That's the only premise of this. It's just to give them an FYI, and that's it. When Clubhouse came out, this was what, like a year ago or something like that now? Holy fuck, it's crazy. This is an email that a lot of people in my community sent out, is like, just like, hey, an FYI, like I'm now doing, these Clubhouse talks every Tuesday and Thursday. And that's how you would insert this in. So if you have a, specific, not like an onboarding call, like a behind the scenes team call that you wanted to share with people, or you had a specific, training around, specific look that you're doing, you could easily use this template to be able to then create that and send that out. So that's the FYI email. All right, the connector email. These are my favorite ones to send. To be totally honest with you, I think I mainly send out connector emails to my email list, mainly because this is what I'm all about. This is like my premise. This is like my foundation, which essentially is all about stories. And so for me, the connector email for you guys is really just about sharing your story, sharing why it is that you're so incredibly passionate about something, while also to humanizing yourself. One of the biggest things I see people lack, especially within this space, is that humanization factor. Whether it's just, they send out just like the normal promotion emails, or they're copy and pasting whatever their upline gave them. Like, this is where you make a difference in terms of with building a relationship with your subscriber, where they feel like you're just sending an email directly to them and only them. And so when it comes down to it, for me, what I like to look at is I like to look at a story. My friend April Petras, she talks a lot. She's from Light Beamers. She talks a lot about the story arc, where essentially you start off here. I'm going to do a really bad job of explaining this, but I hope it makes sense. She explains it so eloquently. So basically what you have is you have like your starting point, which a lot of us, depending on what you're selling and what you're doing, could be more so of like that learning or that low point, right? In terms of with like, oh my gosh, this is where I'm stuck. This is where I'm struggling. This is my pain point, all of it. And then as the arc goes up, you have that kind of like learning moment, right? Where you're just like, oh, it clicked. It makes sense. This happened to me. This is where things started to change, before then you move down into like, this is actually where I'm at now. So it's like their current state, the moment that it clicked in terms of with what needs to have like the solution, and then being able to live in your current state with having that solution. So you're not in that current state any longer. So it's kind of like the arch of that way. So when I'm writing my stories, I actually outline those 3 pieces. I'll be like, okay, this was my current state. So I'll just use like an actual legitimate example. So my current state was, I was doing a live training, and I was doing the things, and I was talking about platforms and all of that amazingness, when all of a sudden my toddler decided to turn off the computer. Okay, that's current state. We don't want to be in that current state, right? Like, especially, yeah. Then you move into, okay, cool. Like, as I'm telling that story, I can talk about, okay, cool. So then that's when I kind of like double blinked. Oh my gosh, what in the world? I was just talking to all these amazing people. And then you're just like, okay, now we need to like figure something out. So immediately I look over, and my mom started to like try to turn the computer back on and try to readjust, so that way it can reload Zoom and do the things. And so that's kind of like the solution of like, okay, listen, like, yes, I definitely want to just like cry. I have a lot going on. There's things happening, but you know what? Like, I mean, the computer will reload eventually, like, even if it's 10 minutes from now, like, it's totally fine, right? As Abby was saying. And then you move into current state. Now back in current state, I'm back here, I'm sharing, I'm doing the things, we're still talking about email marketing. And so in that bridge of that story, it allows for you to be able to see that. So that's how I like to write connector emails. And within that, I think it's so incredibly important to think about the pieces that your ideal client can relate to. Even in emails that are necessarily more, happy, or even emails that are on the opposite side of the spectrum, which are really kind of more so like really sad, like real life, this is what's happening. You have that opportunity to pull people into that by specifically using language like, yeah, do you feel me? Like, have you ever been through this? Like, what do you think? Like, opening those conversation loops and just thinking about it in a way where you're just telling your best friend. Like, I think about it in terms of like, if I was texting Diana about this right now, like, what would I say? And I'd probably be like, yeah, you remember that time when, Liam did da 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 da? Like, that's how I like to write them. So that's like my whole rant up on or like my spiel up on stories. But definitely my friend April from Light Beamers is amazing at stories, and I highly recommend her. Okay, so the next piece of this is the money email. So this specific money email doesn't necessarily 100% make sense, like verbatim copy. So I'm going to like twist this around to make it make sense for all of y'all. But basically within the money email, this is what we're asking for the sale. This is like when we're like, okay, listen, Linda, like we're going to do the things, like, let's go for it. Let's do it. But within the money email, one of the biggest things that I like to do is I love to use social proof. Social proof is the best way to be able to start to build that trust, while also too allowing for people to be able to plug themselves into those situations. And so essentially here, for an example with Susie, we talk about this amazing cat academy, which I think we probably should change to dog academy for Abby. Like we'll enroll your dog into dog academy. But essentially within this gives you the opportunity to be able to allow you to have them be like, oh my gosh, yeah, like my dog doesn't know any basic commands. I'm not saying that about yours, but like my dog doesn't know anything about basic commands, and we're like not consistent about it. Like sometimes he'll like roll over, sometimes he won't. And so this allows for them to be able to see, man, I would actually love that. Maybe I do need to enroll into the dog academy. Like maybe that's what I need to do. And so, being able to use social proof, 110% always recommend. Anything that is very visual based, especially with makeup specifically, images work really well of being able to see the colors, the texture, this, the size of the product and all of that really fun stuff. Oh, I need to open the chat as well too. And so, yeah, that's a huge thing. Also, yes, Donald Miller story brand, he's amazing as well too. I absolutely love that. So that works perfectly too. But yeah, basically anything that really is visual, that is super incredibly important. When it comes to images within your sales emails and any of your emails actually in general, I like to limit them to about 2 or 3, anything over 3. I mean, I usually like to send plain text, to be totally honest with you, but in some situations, like you should have some images as I explained. So usually about 2 to 3 images is what you're looking at and what you're going to want to have within your emails before it gets blocked by the little image blocker thing within emails where you have to click and then it loads all the images. So 2 to 3 is what I recommend because that'll help with your deliverability. And so social proof, add in some images, no more than 3 is what I recommend. And more so than that as well too, I always like to be able just to make it super simple. I think it's so incredibly important, depending on what you're selling, to make a very clear call to action of like, this is what's included, this is what you have, this is how to go and do the things. And so, again, going back to the makeup example, what I like to do is I like to frame. And so this is kind of like the top part of the program or the email is basically like frame what I'm about to share within the social proof. So I always pick my social proof first, and then I go back into it. And then I start to talk about that in the top portion of the email. And what it does is it allows for you to connect where they're at in their current state, provide the social proof that then shows them that they can change their current state, and then move into the actual solution. So it's kind of like current state, the social testimonial, and then move into the next state, which is that piece of it. And so the other thing I'll say about sales emails, a lot of times what I like to do is I like to try to stay one focus or one product focused, But if it's like eyeshadows, for an example, like I won't, and there's like 300 different eyeshadow colors. So like, I'm not going to send one email about each eyeshadow color. Like think about how you can sometimes group or pair products together as well too. And just focus on like being a personalized shopper for your person as well. So anytime I would recommend eyeshadow, I would also recommend the eyeshadow brush. And so putting those together is a really easy way to add in a PS, be like, hey, as you're picking out your eyeshadow brushes or your eyeshadow colors, make sure you grab the brush, because it's actually going to allow for you to be able to create a more, and I honestly am not huge into makeup. So like, I think it's basically like, you know, better placement of your eyeshadow. You can have better placement using our eyeshadow brush, or it can last longer, or some kind of benefit as well with it as well too. One last thing I'll talk about the sale. I could talk about sales things all day, every day. The last piece I'll share with this is anytime you mention a feature, make sure you add in the benefit. Always, 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 always. Like you want to have those linked together in the same sentence or paragraph. What ends up happening, and I also see a lot of times, is it's going to be one or the other. Like we'll talk all about the benefits, but we'll never talk about the features that allow for those benefits to happen. And then they just kind of sound like wishy-washy, and they're like, well, how is that possible? Well, that's because of this feature. Same thing on the other side. We can talk about features all day, every day, but nobody cares that you'll be able to use the, you know, eyeshadow for 6 months unless they also know the benefit of the way the eyeshadow was created was to actually stay on for 24 hours, for an example. So make sure you bring both of those together, because it allows kind of for a complete sentence within their brain of being like, okay, cool, this is the feature, this is the benefit, and then you can push it together. So that is the sales email. Now, this last email, okay, I lied. This is probably my favorite email of all times, because this is something that I talk a lot about. This is what I talked about on my keynote in Montana back in April. This is a huge piece of what makes my emails so much more different than everybody else's. And I'm going to share that with you, because this email alone has created phenomenal results, and it doesn't look like it would, but it does. And I'm going to explain why. So the reply email. One of the biggest things that I noticed, and why I created this email for myself originally, was everybody was just talking at people. All they were doing was just being like, look at me, look at my product, look at my services, look at everything. And I was like, I would never talk about that. Like, I would never talk that way to my friend Diana. Like, I would never just talk at her all day and just be like, da 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 da. Like, you know, like I ask her, like, hey, what you got going on today? Is there anything I can do to support you today? Like, how's your kids doing? Like, all of that. So I wanted to take that same idea and concept of like having that conversation and pull it into email marketing. And that's where the reply email comes into, which essentially is, hey, first name, what you up to today? Is there anything I can do to support you this week? Just let me know when you have a sec, your friend Ashley. And I sent this email out to my list, and my inbox was flooded with replies. The Facebook group that I had at the time, I sent it out to them, and I was like, send this email to your list and tell me what happens. And I had people getting like 20 plus replies from a small email list. Like their inbox were just exploding, because everyone was like, thank you for asking. Like, thank you so much for taking the time to actually ask me how my day is, like how I can help you, what this looks like. How can I support you when it comes to telling your story? How can I support you when it comes to adding in pieces into your makeup brand, or whatever that looks like? And so when it comes down to it, I think it's so incredibly important to link those pieces together and allow for that actual humanization to happen. And so you can actually copy and paste this. I would probably change the language to match you. Definitely take the name Ashley out, unless your name is Ashley. And send it out to your list. And you can use the subject line, hey, hey there, whatever it is. Like I've had people go through the process of, you know, being like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot I was going to buy this product, you know, send over the link. It could be, oh my gosh, I was going to totally schedule a call for you about learning more about joining your team, being able to, you know, have those opportunities to spark that memory with them. And so these are the 5 email types. Again, you can, I'll drop the link in the chat for you guys to be able to add it in, but it basically has all the copy. You can take a look at it and all of that amazingness. And so, yes. Okay, cool. And I want to honor everybody's time. So if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them now. I'm going to stop the share the link, look at the chat. And then if you would like, I can go over like in 2 seconds, the 3 sequences that you should have. And then you would actually, I mean, the email types are what you'll actually use to be able to create them. So I'm going to move into stop share. All right, add it in here. Okay, cool. Yes, I can definitely say 10 minutes over. When I realized that everything was like exploding, I canceled my podcast interview after this because I was like, there's just no way. There's just no way. Okay. Make sure you respond when they reply. Always, 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 always. It's a conversation, right? So even when you think about a conversation, you always want to reply back. Don't leave people on red because that's not what we're looking for. Okay. Perfecto. Okay. One other thing that I'll also say about the reply email too, you can use this to your advantage to get specific information from your customers. And so if you don't want to know what you can do to support them this week, ask them a specific question about like, what product were you looking at this week? Is there something you need to refill in your makeup bag? Is there, whatever it is that your intention is, you can replace that with it because it's just simply a question. You're just asking a question, right? And so I've used this in terms of with like retention purposes, like, hey, have you gone through the process of, making sure that your billing is set up, to renew for another 3 months? Like you can think about, again, the intention, the question you want to ask, and just plug it into there and just keep it as a plain text email to look like it just came from you. Perfect. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go over the 3 sequences that you should have. And then in terms of with moving forward, if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. If you'd like to book like a free 20-minute call, we can definitely go over anything specific. We can outline things. Like I'm here to collaborate and support. And so if there's anything that I can go further into, more than happy to. Okay, so the 3 sequences that I truly believe that every, MLM marketer, all of y'all need to have, regardless actually of, what kind of business model that you have even. So if you have a different kind of business, this works too. You need to have a welcome sequence, which essentially is that lead magnet to the first offer, a fulfillment sequence, which essentially happens after purchase. And basically after they purchase, how are you following up with them? How are you keeping them in the loop? How are you going through the process of staying engaged with them? And then the third one is going to be a onboarding sequence. And so regardless if it's for your team, for a coaching offer that you have, or something that is recurring outside of that, an onboarding sequence is super incredibly helpful for walking them through that process. And so your welcome sequence, just like as a quick overview, 8 emails long is usually what I recommend. And 8 emails can seem like a lot. So basically to break it down, what you'll do is you'll have the initial welcome email. Your welcome email should include, who you are, what you do, the freebie, as well as a link to a social platform or a podcast or a YouTube channel or something like that. That email is going to be your top open and top click email, usually of all time. Sometimes it's not, but usually it is. And from there, it will give you a really good idea of essentially giving you a good idea of like, okay, cool. This is what it's all about. This is what I can expect. Here's how I can connect with you, all that good fun stuff. And then from there, you can do a connection email. You can do an educational email and just swap between the 3 or the 2 before you add in. If you want to add in the reply email or the FYI email, you totally can before then moving into the next piece, which is going to be your money email. And then that's your welcome email. Your fulfillment and your onboarding sequences. We're definitely going to go into more detail about this, which I'm super excited to go into. But to kind of keep it high level, you want to start thinking about what are the steps that somebody needs to take? What are the pieces that they need to know in order for you to be able to go through the process of essentially helping them have the best experience ever? One of the biggest things, I see all the things, but like one of the other biggest things that I see is a lot of times, what'll end up happening is we'll go through and we'll be like, okay, here's your product. Thank you so very much. And we send a thank you email, but then we never follow back up with them. Like, what if there was maybe an issue? Maybe they're like not sure how to use the product. And sometimes it can be very common sense. We're like, okay, how do you not know how to use a lipstick, right? But like, there are things that you can add in educationally, things that you can educate and be like, hey, if you're finding your lipstick isn't staying on, try this lip balm or this lip concealer. I don't know, like all these other things that you can then add into it to be able to further enhance that experience. The other piece of, and a lot of times we get stuck into is like, okay, I have quite a few products. Like maybe you have coffee and tea and you have supplies for that. It could be very overwhelming to try and go through and like make all of these fulfillment and all of these onboarding, all of that, right? So I like to just think about like, what primary journey can I put them through to start? And then later on, as your business grows, as you get more clients, you can add in additional journeys. But mainly just focus on that primary one from start to finish to just give value adds. Even if you send an email about lipstick and they didn't buy lipstick, that could be a huge reminder of like, oh my gosh, yeah, my tube's almost out. I really do need to buy another one. And so just thinking about that like high level overview and just, again, checking in with them, asking questions, thinking about those touch points, understanding when people usually reorder, all really helpful information when you go through the process of outlining all the things. So that is the gist. That is the gist in terms of with, starting, how the platform, the list, the organization, moving into the different email types that I dropped the link for, and then as well too moving into, okay, what are the sequences that I need to think about as I'm getting started? And I'm gonna grab a sip of coffee.
Perfect. So real quick, for those of you that are still on here, can you please drop your key takeaway? I want to know what you're walking away from this with. I know this was a lot of information. I know it went fast. But also like, again, we talk about intentionality. I don't want to waste your time. And so it's like, okay, we're going to give you all the things. This is why you get replay access. So that way you can go over it again and take the next step. I am tomorrow for the Roadmap Girls, for our coaching call. I'm going to show you my email sequence. So my 8 email sequence long for my freebie. So you can see what that looks like, how I implement it, how I use it. Again, it's based off of Ashley's model. So it works. Last I checked, my second email was when was the last time I updated you on that? It was like 90-something%, right? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I believe so. It was good stuff.
Yeah. So our stuff works. Let me see if I can pull it up quickly here, but I'll go over that with you guys tomorrow. And then go from there. Oh, Melissa, great question. How often do you send emails?
So basically, generally speaking, I always tell people whatever you can do consistently well is what you should do. So a lot of times what ends up happening is we say that we're going to send monthly emails, or we're going to send weekly emails, or biweekly, or daily even, and then we like half do it, and that doesn't work for anybody. So pick what you're going to do and then go with it. But if I had my way, I would do 1 email a week regardless, one primary touch point. And then once your list gets over 3,000 people, I would want to see a segmentation between non-buyers and buyers and sending a campaign out specifically to each of those.
So Melissa, for getting started, one of the easiest things is to start a Excel spreadsheet where you're going to track first name, last name, email, buyer or non-buyer, and any connection points that you know specifically with them. So if you're going to be tracking, okay, are they a jogger girl? Are they a legging girl? Are they engaged in your group? Are they already in your group? Like those are the different things. And again, tomorrow when we go over how I've implemented these things, I can show you guys my master list. Every single person who's in DSDB is on that list. And I have the questions. That's one reason why I say like have questions in your Facebook group. So that way it's those initial contact points. That also is where I go if I'm stuck on content. I go and check out that spreadsheet and say, okay, what's the correlation? Are there a lot of people asking questions about something specific? That's why we're hitting social media so hard this month, because so many girls are like, I'm stuck with social. I don't feel authentic on social. So it's like, okay, that's what we're focusing on right now. So that is what we are, that's what we're doing right now. Whoa, that dropped. I'm going to have to go in and check that. So right now, my email 1 is at 71%, email 2 is at 59%, and that dropped heavily. So I'm curious on that because that was up to 91%. So I don't know what's up with that. Email 3, 42, email 4, 53, 22, 22, 53.
One other thing I'll mention too is generally speaking, I look at stats once a month because you will see this as people interact. And so if there's one piece of advice I can give for you guys is email stats are important. They're education. They are, if you're very much so like me, like business is very black and white. When you look at numbers, it is what it is, right? There's no emotion attached to those numbers. And so, I always talk about open rates click rates for a borderline, but just know at the end of the day, it's really just about how you show up. And if a person didn't open up email number 2, well, hey, it's totally cool. If someone unsubscribes, hey, it's okay. You don't have to be part of my party. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And so I just really, again, at the end of the day, like, I look at them once a month because you will see this, things will happen. There was one point when, Texas had that huge snowstorm and everyone's open and click rates went down because Texas was gone. There's a lot of people in Texas, and so again, it's all roller coaster. It's all a game. You can play with it. But again, don't get super attached to them at all.
And that's also why email rates skyrocketed yesterday, because nobody was on social. So everybody was checking email. And so like, also, again, this is something, so side note, we talk about intentionality and we talk about not wasting people's time. Do not put a header just to get attention.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the subject lines. Let me tell you what. So one of the biggest things that I've seen, and I think I need a new phrase for this because I see a lot, again, regardless, subject lines are definitely meant to create curiosity. 100%. That's how they get opened. People are curious. They're like, ooh, what's inside? But your subject lines are 50% the relationship you have with your subscribers and 50% the actual. Like, I put one of my subject lines was, I want to gift you an avocado. And people were opening that like crazy because they know avocados are associated with my brand. You can't tell because I'm not at my home right now, my home office, because I have avocado stuff. But, generally speaking, when it comes down to it, like, people are driven based not just on, the curiosity, but they're also based off of the relationship that they have with you. They're like, ooh, I know what Ashley's going to say is good, so I'm going to open it. So never put something like your appointment's been booked or your invoice is due. Like, we're going to throw that all to the curb. Like, that's not us. We're not into that sleaziness, but at the end of the day, it really does. Yeah. I've seen a lot of those. So just focus on conversational headlines. Like, hey, very much so. Like, I've used ones like, I miss you, instead of like, where have you been? Because we want to make sure that we're linking those two things together in a very nice way.
Yeah. And like the header, I'm sure you guys have all seen the titles where it's been like, oh, so you don't want to talk to me anymore. Like,
oh my gosh.
Just don't. Melissa and I were chatting a little bit on Slack yesterday about some of the, not necessarily like illegal, but just really unethical stuff that comes up. And this is one of them. Like, she was talking about how, like, with live videos, like, people were doing pre-recorded videos and then like posting them and saying, oh, my comments must not be working, so I'll get with you guys later, and pretending that they were live when they weren't. Like,
yeah,
don't do that. Don't do that. I've never seen anybody do that, but I'm like, if I see that, I'm going to call them out, like, probably privately, but don't do that. But the same is true with email. Like, respect their time, respect their inbox. There's a person on the other end of that email. Yeah. So just like with everything we do, like, you are talking to people. Again, this is why I mentioned like reading things out loud. Before I send an email, I'll write it. I'll save it as a draft. I'll walk away for just a quick minute. I'll come back and I'll read it again. Just be like, okay, does this flow? Does this sound like me? Did I make a glaring typographical error? Yeah. And yeah, you have to have their consent to send emails. Like, you can get in trouble. So again, like, this is a like, hey, click this button to subscribe. Or that's why, like, if you guys have seen my questions in my group, it's a, hey, drop your email if you want me to contact you and send you some information about things that are going on, getting free access to trainings, all of that stuff. I have some people that will drop their email and then say, don't email me, or just email the freebie and don't put me on your list. There's some people who are like, can you just message me the freebie instead? That's okay. They may subscribe later.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. 100%. And there's always things that, come about and things that happen and you're just like, oof, I didn't know that. And that's totally completely okay. Like, if there's anything that you're not sure about and you're just like, I don't really know about how this is going to roll, like, please you're more than welcome to message me. Like, I'm a wealth of knowledge in the email space. And so you're more than welcome to just send over any questions that you have, because I know it can be confusing. Not a lawyer, but more than happy to help always.
Sent her several questions about Kajabi because I was like, how do I set this up? This isn't working. And so, yeah, she's definitely helped me quite a bit with that. So, all right, Ashley, thank you so much for your time. Guys, make sure that you go follow her on Instagram. That is her main platform. She's got a bunch of stuff there. Go check out all her stuff. So, and she will be back for the social media summit on the 23rd. Roadmap Girls, you're automatically registered. So you're good to go with that. But she's gonna be talking more about email stuff. I will make sure that document she linked gets to you guys as well. I'll post it on Slack later today with the replay as soon as I can get this up. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Email does not have to be scary, but email is super effective. Start simple. That's all you need to do. Start simple. And yeah, it'll be good. So thank you so much for your time today, Ashley. I appreciate you so much. And I'm excited to start getting emails from you guys.
Yay! Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I will talk to you guys later.
All right. Bye.